Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to this obviously video version of Small Business Saturday within the Furthermore with Amanda Head podcast. We're going to make things a little bit political today. I know it's kind of my bread and butter to make everything political, although I will say in the past with these Small Business Saturday episodes, I've tried to keep those episodes geared towards more about that person's particular business, no matter what space it's in. I try to highlight the best of what their business is and keep it on that. But with this episode, it's going to be hard to do that because my guest today is former director of email marketing for both the RNC and Donald Trump's campaign. He is now the CEO of Politicoin, and he is a political fundraiser. He has run a nearly $1.2 billion fundraising machine since he started working in this space. And he's got a lot of interesting things to talk about. There is a story out about some political shenanigans taking place on the Democrat side. I know that you are so shocked about that. We are going to get into that, as well as a number of other things pertaining to his business and a lot of questions that I think you're going to want to know, because we all get these text messages and emails from entities that we have never heard of, and we have no idea how they got our information. And we're going to talk about all of this stuff. So stay right here, and we'll be back in just a moment with Ken Mika. Happy Saturday, everybody. I am so delighted to be back to this regular Saturday video podcast programming for Small Business Saturday. And, you know, I love covering all types of businesses, whether it is in the beauty space, the health space, the corporate space, the automotive space. We have had guests from all across all platforms and all societies. And I'm very excited to kind of merge this with politics with my guest today. He is Ken Mika. He is the former director of email marketing for both the RNC and the Trump campaign, and he is now the CEO of Politicoin. Ken, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Okay, so I want to give you the opportunity to spout this number, because I am absolutely amazed. I know that you've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy fundraising, but you have raised over how much in political fundraising over the years?
Over the years, I stopped counting really after we hit $1 billion, but we're at about we've done over 1.3 billion in small dollar donations.
Incredible. Okay, talk to us about, because I know that you have done this for a number of different entities and campaigns. Obviously, I mentioned the Trump campaign and the RNC. What have been some of the more interesting organizations, entities, or candidates who you've fundraised for?
Yeah, I mean, no one will ever be doing it for the Trump campaign. Most fun, most unique. It's presidential.
Yeah.
But we've done fundraising for nonprofits who just need to get it off the ground. And I think one of the coolest ones that we've done it for was a race just here in New Jersey, where I'm from. Candidate, really, they'll tell you they had no shot of winning. And we were able to help them raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. They won their race and were able to take on an opponent that they never thought they would. It was incredible.
That's got to be so satisfying for you, knowing that, I mean, but I assume this is still the case. The conventional wisdom in politics is that, you know, fundraising is the number one required item for winning a campaign. I think that there's probably a direct relationship between, in most cases, whoever raises the most money and whoever wins the election. Do you find that to be 100% true, close to 100% true?
Yeah, I'd say close to 100% true. There's always outliers on every side, whether you're a billionaire and you still lose, or someone who has no money and you win.
Yeah. Talk to our audience, because I know with respect to the RNC and the Trump campaign, you were on top of email marketing. Talk to us about the challenges that presents, because I know that from the receiver side, there are obviously challenges because people can send you to spam, they can block the sender. Obviously, from your side of things, I imagine you get fake email addresses, so that presents even more challenges of wasted resources. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I think you hit on probably the number one: bad actors signing up to receive your emails and then marking you as spam, or putting you in their unsubscribe and just messing up your problems. What a lot of people don't realize is on the back end of this is email service providers or email platforms like Gmail, Yahoo, AOL sometimes they just shut you down. And a lot of people would talk about Facebook or Twitter back in the day shadow banning you. That's a real thing in the email marketing world, and I know the RNC proved it. We saw it a couple weeks before Election Day during the 2020 election. Gmail just shut us down at one point. It's a real issue, and it affects all Republicans.
Yeah.
I can't speak on the Democrat side, but I can tell you the Republican side.
I mean, I feel like it's got to affect Democrats too, maybe to not the same degree, because I do feel like Republicans get targeted more so than Democrats, because usually Democrats targeting the Republicans. I want to ask you though about the RNC, your time at the RNC. Obviously you're outside of that now, so you can look back on your time, look back at the messaging that the RNC employed during your time with them and now. The RNC obviously had some trust issues when Ronna McDaniel was in charge, and now that they have Michael Whatley at the top, along with Laura Trump as co-chair, I think that their fundraising has probably picked up a little bit. But as far as the messaging, do you think that they're learning? Are they are they stagnant? What do you think about the messaging that they are using? And then I also want to talk to you about that with respect to the Trump campaign.
Yeah, I think the messaging is always changing, right? Mm-hmm. During the 2020 cycle, the message to get out the vote, we saw the largest amount of people go vote for President Trump. I mean, the message was there. We saw the amount of money coming in, it was there. But it has to change, and it always will, right? Yeah. Issues are different each time, and now we're seeing a more aggressive push against what was President Biden at the time, and now going and moving towards Vice President Kamala Harris. And that message of, you can't afford to pay your bills anymore. Everyone sees that on a day-to-day. It's a good message, but the message is always changing. There's always a new issue that needs to be addressed or talked about that might be bigger than the last.
I'm so glad you mentioned that about the message changing, because it almost feels like that is not an issue with the Harris campaign. It's literally what they are trying to do. A lot of people have talked about how Kamala Harris is a chameleon and she keeps changing her position on things. Now she's literally copycatting Donald Trump's campaign bullet points, especially with respect to, there's some energy things that she's copying him on, the no tax on tips things. It kind of seems like the feature of her campaign is that she is a moving target, so that the Trump campaign and the RNC can't pin her down on anything. And I gotta say, it's brilliant, because just watching what has happened with the Trump campaign since Kamala emerged as the nominee, it does feel like they are having a hard time hitting the target.
I can't speak to anything. I don't know their insights, but yeah. I think the one thing across the board, whether you're the Trump campaign or you're a town legislative race, it's always changing, right? You got to figure out, you're sending out 1,000 lines of attack each day to figure out what sticks the largest. So you're always trying new things. Mm-hmm. And I think once they see something really stick and land on that point, it'll bump up. For the past year, we saw the border issue be a very major issue, and it stuck very well. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing the economic issue go into effect. And like you said, the no tax on tips. So that's going to be the thing. Mm-hmm. She's not changing, she's just stealing from everyone else or copying everyone else. It's not new. Look at the truth here.
Yeah. I want to get back to your kind of the structure of what you do, because I know that there are probably demographic challenges as well for people who are maybe of an older generation. Maybe email or text messaging isn't as effective, or you might think it's not, but maybe it is, because these are a lot of folks who are retired. They're, spending time at home, doing hobbies, living out their golden years. What are some of those demographic challenges that you run into?
I think the biggest one that we run into is the younger generation doesn't use email like certain generations, nor do they do regular mail. So with an older demographic, if we can't reach them by email or text, we're able to send mailers out to them, and then they'll donate a check through the mail. But this younger generation, even running social media ads, whether that's through X, Facebook, or on Google or Instagram, they know those are ads. They're not bought in like what people call the boomer generation, where they're like, oh, they see an ad, they click on it, they go through.
Right.
So it's figuring out a way to send your message out to this younger generation and make them take an action with it.
How does Politicoin do that? How do you target that youngest audience who isn't necessarily checking email and certainly not checking their mailbox?
So not to give away our whole secret, but
yeah, I don't want to give away trade secrets, but
one fun thing that we figured out was for the group of people who are just going to college or in college, we target their parents to push a message to their children.
Oh.
So, and I can speak to this myself. Sometimes my mom or dad will see something and they'll send it to me saying, like, you need to see this, look what's happening.
Yeah.
That's that same type of message that we're sending to the college kids' parents of, you need to send this to your children, make them aware. Hey, college isn't cheap. Don't vote for Kamala Harris because it's affecting our piggy bank, which is essentially affecting your piggy bank.
Yeah. Hey, what are your thoughts on, because this youngest generation, for those who are liberal, who are, I feel like, properly getting gaslit by the Harris campaign, especially on all of the mixed messaging, the positions that she has flip-flopped on, but they're also getting gaslit by the media, because this is the same mainstream media who, you know, for the last 3.5 years has talked about how Kamala Harris has a 92% turnover rate. One of her former senior advisors had such a horrible time with Kamala Harris that she said, I may never work for another woman ever again. She failed on the border. There are numerous valid reports of her just basically smoking weed at the White House, being high all the time. She doesn't take responsibility for anything. She can't give a message without being on prompter. You try to ask her an off-the-cuff question, and it's just a string of the same words mixed up and rearranged in different orders. And it seems to me that this youngest generation, you know, for those who are liberal, they're not seeing any of that. How do you message those people and I guess virtually shake their shoulders and tell them to open up their eyes?
I think a really fun way that started to happen, and I'm going to flip it a little bit. So the Democrats do a very good job of employing social media influencers. We saw the big push through TikTok. We're seeing it a little bit through X. There's an organic movement on the younger generation right now pushing pro-Trump content without having to fall into this paid category where they're exposing the Harris campaign for trying to buy them and use their social influencing.
Yeah.
Same with the celebrity status. And I think a lot of that has started to come out. And now with this organic movement through social media platforms of pushing President Trump positively, it's really laying into effect, because now it's getting into what everyone calls the algorithm, and it's spreading faster, and people are seeing, this story about her having a 92% turnover rate or someone not wanting to work for another woman again. That's a huge story that people need to see.
Yeah. And you know, I think it was Elon Musk who tweeted this over this past weekend, and he talked about, you know, Hunger Games and Star Wars and The Matrix and Divergent, and how when you watch those movies, you always side with the resistance. And yet all of these liberals who are siding with Kamala Harris, who think they are raging against the machine, you're not raging against the machine. She is the machine. That is who she is. I've got to imagine that, especially for you know, the people in their 20s and maybe lower 30s, that's something that I mean, there's got to be an about face on that.
Yeah, it'll kick over, and those are the same people who were calling for term limits for the Supreme Court, but voting for Joe Biden, who's been in office for
decades,
for the most of us have been alive.
Right. Yeah. Talk to us about, please, the difference between the success rate for email marketing, and I know even as far as text messaging, there's SMS and MMS, and I don't really understand the difference between SMS and MMS. Can you kind of talk to us about that, and then also the successes of that versus email marketing?
Sure. So the main difference between SMS and MMS marketing, SMS doesn't have a picture or video. It's just about 160 characters of text.
Okay.
MMS is a picture text message, or video, probably up to about 2,000 characters. The success with that is incredible, right? Mm-hmm. How often not even getting a text message notification, but just something popping up on your screen and you look, because we're trained to now.
Yeah.
You open it, you answer it, you want to clear the notification. It's incredibly successful, almost a 95% success rate. And then email marketing is, like I said, for that specific demographic that we're going after, it's incredible. It's nice.
Wow.
You can do long form. People want to answer and take their time to give you their responses. Once you can get away from the technical side of being shadow banned, people love it. I mean, it's still a great way to reach someone, especially who's sitting in a cubicle, probably bored throughout their day and wants to read a little something.
A little light reading material. What was I going to ask you? Oh, okay. So as far as the mechanism, I have always wondered this for my entire life of getting text messages for political campaigns and causes. I have always wondered this. When your company, when you were engaged by a campaign or an entity to send out text messages and you send them out to, I know that you have sent 40 billion emails and 250 million texts through your company for these various campaigns. And this may sound like a very rudimentary question. I can't imagine that you have an army of people who are sending these text messages. I have to imagine that that's a software, right?
It's a little bit of both. So there's a section that's called P2P, which stands for person to person. So there are people in the United States who just sit there and click to send your text messages all day. And then there's the other side, which is known as A2P, automation to person. And that's where the robot comes in and can send it.
Okay, so when I get a text from the Harris campaign that says, support Kamala Harris, she supports no tax on tips, she stands behind service workers, and I text them back and say, actually, she was the tie-breaking vote in a bill that forced the IRS to scrutinize taxes on tips. It was the Donald Trump campaign who introduced 2 months ago the notion of not taxing tips at all. If I send that retort to them, is that actually going to hit anybody, or does that just go off into the cloud that Kamala Harris thinks is above our head?
It will go to someone, but reality is it'll probably go to their cloud. But you should respond. It costs them a couple cents, and if you get everyone to start responding, it becomes a nice big chunk of change. So
oh, that's a really good pro tip. All right, everybody. So make sure if it's a Democrat texting you, make sure you respond and you force them to have to offer you a response back. Okay, we're going to take a very quick break. We've got to pay a few bills, but we're going to be back in just a minute with Ken Mika of Politicoin. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Ken Mika of Politicoin. Ken, I feel like you are the perfect person to ask this because I would imagine that it is part of your wheelhouse to have to know FEC regulations backwards and forwards with respect to, rules and laws pertaining to election fundraising. Over your years of doing this, and I know this is your bread and butter, so obviously you want to make... you want to utilize every tool at your disposal that is legal. But over your years of doing this, have you ever observed some type of political fundraising tactic that you think should be done away with, that you don't think should be allowed because it's probably vulnerable or corruptible? Or have you ever come across something that that is already employed that you think is unethical and should not be allowed?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Okay, good. What are those?
One of the biggest things is on the Republican side, we require a lot more information to process a donation, which is a great thing, right? On the Democratic side, they don't do that. And that's a big problem. And it causes an issue for not necessarily being able to be sure where some money's coming from. And I know there are also some nonprofits who do that too. Not that falls into the same political wheelhouse, but if you're going to be giving a donation to an organization, there should be a lot more information that should be provided to make sure that everyone it's clear where the money's coming from and where it's going as well.
So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we actually have a fresh news story from the last few weeks. Chairman Brian Stile, who is the chair of the House Admin Committee, is now investigating Act Blue, because there are a number of pretty large dollar donations that have been processed through Act Blue that have been attributed to people. And these people have come forward and said, I didn't donate that. That was not me. That I did not complete that transaction. I did not approve that transaction. So the concern now is that these are foreign entities that are donating, and they're basically just using, I mean, I guess it's the equivalent of like a large dollar straw man donation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
100% should be looked into. When everyone points and says, the Republicans are doing shady stuff, and then you present them with something like this, it should be investigated. You know what? If it's not a problem, if everything was done legally and that comes true, great. There shouldn't be a problem then. But until that's proven, it should be looked into.
Do you think that on the Democrat side, as far as unethical fundraising, do you think that that's probably the biggest problem that they've got?
I'd say so. I think I don't know what they do, but I'd say that's trying to be hidden. That's probably it.
Okay. Are there reforms obviously requiring more information? Because as I understand it, on that Act Blue story, they weren't asking for the 3-digit CCV code on credit cards, so they couldn't even actually verify that it was that person's credit card or that person was doing it. Are there any regulations that you think are unnecessary?
No.
Okay.
Not that I've really come across or dealt with. I do think one really good regulation on the political mail side is you have to be verified as a political entity, so that your mail is going through from a campaign standpoint. I think that's something that should be integrated into the digital side of politics as well. That way everything's clear cut, everyone's playing the same game and has to register the same way. But otherwise, not necessarily.
Okay, I have a super random and technical and possibly nerdy question. Everybody knows that there are campaign limits when it comes to donating for a local candidate, a state candidate, for a federal candidate. I think for local, it used to be around, I don't know, like 1,000. For state, it was like 5,000, and for federal, it was, I don't know, like 32,000. I don't know. My numbers could be completely off. What are the numbers now? And maybe you don't need to give the specific numbers, but do they adjust for inflation?
They do.
Oh.
So we saw from 2022, which it was 2,800 at your maximum. Now it's been adjusted to 3,300 per person. So they do take it into account.
Interesting.
Really that.
Okay, good. All right. I want to get back to your business, because I know that Politicoin offers a pretty large buffet of services that you offer to candidates or entities. Talk to us about some of those services.
Yeah, so our bread and butter, like we've been talking about, is email and text message fundraising. But what we also offer is online ads to bring in money or to help bring in leads for you, as well as taking what we currently have on the email and text message side for fundraising. And that's really easily changed into get out the vote, to help people send text messages to push voters, send emails to push voters. And we have a large data apparatus too that we're able to supply lists, cell phones, phone numbers, emails, to help those people contact all their people, and then as well to tie it all together, a nice mail program, if you want to expand your audience there too.
Awesome. I love that. Talk to us a little bit before, because we've just got a few more minutes left. Artificial intelligence is something that has crept into the political sphere. And I feel like 2020 was probably the last genuine, and I don't even necessarily want to use the term genuine election, because I don't think that, anyway, shenanigans took place. But on the AI side of things, I feel like 2020 was the last slightly non-corrupted election that we have. And by that, I mean, this time around, I feel like, we're already seeing this. If a video comes out of Kamala Harris that she doesn't like, she can say that's a deep fake, or as the media parroted for Joe Biden, a cheap fake. If it is a video that is good for the Kamala Harris campaign, then Donald Trump can say that it's a deep fake. And I feel like these videos are getting so much more sophisticated and they look pretty darn good. And I don't know how do we go about making sure that is not an enduring problem? Is there a way?
I don't know if there's a way or not. And I mean, after I think this weekend, I don't know if you saw all the pictures that came out of saying this is AI or this is a deep fake. Like, someone needs, whoever knows how to do it, someone needs to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that is just like way above my pay grade. For you in your business with Politicoin, are you able to utilize AI? And I know that you would do it in an ethical manner, but how would you employ AI?
Yeah, there's a lot of very cool programs that come out to help on the copywriting side.
Yeah.
To help out with audience targeting. It's a really good program if used for good and not for trying to persuade voters.
Yeah, absolutely. What does that look like with respect to, I mean, like, is it easy or is it something that's doable that you could type in, all right, to whatever AI you're using. All right, these are the bullet points we need to hit. This is the demographic we want to talk to. So use language that appeals to them. Do you do stuff like that?
Yeah, and actually we have a program on our back end where we're able to take all the video clips that a candidate or organization might do, where they're speaking or it's commercials, plug them in and have the AI generate content based in their tone and style of speaking. And that's a great way to start a prompt to then allow us to use our own language to get going from there.
I love that. That's such a cool technology. And I feel like it is so perfect for someone like Donald Trump because he does have such an interesting and unique cadence and way of speaking that you would have to have something like AI to recreate that.
I think his current team, I don't know what they do, but they do a great job of matching his style and tone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for anyone out there who is listening and maybe they are a candidate, maybe they're thinking about being a candidate and kind of testing the waters, or they have, an organization that they want to really ramp up their fundraising. What does it look like, the structure of an engagement between you and an entity?
Yeah, it's a super seamless process. If someone reaches out, we walk through everything. We have a nice onboarding document so that they fill it out. We set up a weekly call with them or an onboarding call too to walk them through that process. It's really like a 3-step process. It's super simple. And then from there, we create the content and everything that they want to talk about, send it over to them, and then we get rolling.
I love that.
Super smooth. It's super easy and it's very successful.
Awesome. So tell everybody how they can find out more about Politicoin or you, or reach out to you.
Yeah. The best way, go to our website, politicoin.gop. From there, just fill out a form. Feel free to follow us on LinkedIn as well at Politicoin, or Twitter at Politicoin Wins.
Awesome. Politicoin.gop. Everybody go check it out. Ken Mika, this is a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and then I've got a few more headlines that I want to hit over this weekend. So take a quick water break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. So there has been this story growing over the last 9 days or so regarding Kamala Harris. And there have been, even to their credit, a number of Democrats who have come out and spoken about this as well. Sorry, I have a video playing over here on silent and it's quite distracting. I'm gonna have to move it down the page. So someone brought it to the attention of the public that Kamala Harris's website, though at the time that this person, I think it was Chris Eliza, who first talked about it, at that time she was already 2 weeks into being the presumptive nominee. At that point on her website, there were 7, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 opportunities to donate, including when you open the web page and there's a pop-up window that asks you to donate. So 7 different mechanisms to donate, whether it's a pop-up window or a little tab, and 0 policy pages. Now, literally no one on our side of the aisle is surprised about this, because Kamala is a Kamala, Kamala chameleon. Chameleon. Getting tongue-tied over that. It's because everything she does is so twisted. But she has changed her policy positions on practically everything. And if you put it out there, if you actually put it in writing on a website or otherwise, then you have to stand by it. Now, compare this to Donald Trump's website, where one of the main tabs at the top of the page is regarding policy positions. You click on that tab and there are 20 little great concise little bullet points regarding his policies. So Donald Trump makes it very easy for people to learn and confirm what his positions are on certain things. And Kamala Harris has waffled on practically everything. This is something I want to know. If progressivism is so great, politically speaking, if it is so good for the American people, why is she denying that? Why are the mainstream media trying to cover up the fact that Kamala Harris was consistently the most liberal member of the Senate? Why are they trying to cover that up if liberalism is so great? It's not. It sucks. It literally sucks, and that's why. Now, I don't know if any of you follow Chet Cannon over on Twitter. This is a bit of a shout out for him. He's a friend. And speaking of one of the policies that Kamala Harris has waffled on, the no tax on tips thing. Now, mainstream media is trying to memory hole nearly everything that they have told you about Kamala Harris. They have not liked this woman. No one liked this woman. She, I think, was second to last. Hang on, I got to look this up. I got to make sure that I have my numbers right. In the 2020 primary, yeah, no, dead last. So in the 2020 Democrat primary, Biden was at 31%, Warren was at 25%, Sanders was at 14%, Buttigieg was at 7%, yeah, second to last. Harris was at 5%, and Andrew Yang was at 4%. She didn't win a single delegate, not a single one. This woman is not popular. She never has been, but the mainstream media is trying to tell you, oh, she's been great all along, y'all. We never talked about how shitty she was to her staff. We've never talked about how she was put in charge of the border. Now, this is back when they were on Team Biden and not Team Kamala, and they were trying to defend Joe Biden, saying, well, it's not Joe Biden's fault. He tasked Kamala Harris with the position of border czar, so it's technically her fault. So now they're trying to tell you, oh, we never said that. They're literally removing web pages, literally removing articles from their websites that in the title had Border Czar Harris. They are gaslighting you. And for anyone out there who is falling for this hook, line, and sinker, you are a rube. You are, I can't use the word. And especially because I would add a curse word before it, because that's how strongly I feel about this. Anyway, back to this tweet. This is insane. All right, so CBS, this was back in June, on June 17th of this year, not long after President Trump had introduced the idea of no tax on tips. He introduced this at a rally in Nevada because Nevada is a huge service state. The service industry is massive there, of course, mainly because of Las Vegas and the casinos and all of the service-oriented businesses there. So CBS tweets this out on June 17th. Former President Donald Trump's vow to stop taxing tips would cost the federal government up to $250 billion, heavens, over 10 years, according to a nonpartisan watchdog group. So obviously, the focus of this headline is how much Donald Trump wants to cost the federal government, aka the American people, because the American people fund the federal government. Now, here's an article from Monday, August 12th. Headline: Vice President Kamala Harris is rolling out a new policy position, saying she'll fight to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. These, and the title of Chet's tweet was, "You don't hate the media enough." My gosh, you do not hate them enough. This is absolutely disgusting, but it's honestly no surprise. This is a woman who And I think this is actually a feature of her campaign. I think when the DNC and Democrat powers were weighing who they could replace Joe Biden with, knowing that Kamala Harris made the most sense, they had to war room what they were going to do to make her palatable to the American people. And remember what I told you guys last week. She only has to be palatable. She only has to be just good enough that when these Democrat activists go door to door to collect ballots, they just have to not get the door slammed in their face. That's it. They just have to, she just has to be palatable and not even likable. She just has to be palatable enough that when they say, hey, we'll fill out your ballot for you, or hey, we'll help you fill out your ballot, that these people don't say, F you, I hate Kamala, she and Joe Biden have destroyed our country, and she lied the entire administration about the condition of Joe Biden. She doesn't have to be doing that well, okay? But she knows that she can't be staunch on any issue because her party is so wackadoo that I mean, perfect example, the situation between Israel and Hamas. If she takes Israel's side, she loses a bunch of Democrat voters in Michigan and Minnesota. If she takes the Palestinian side, you got like 2% of the population of the American population that is Jewish. So she can't afford that. So she is stuck between a rock and a hard place. She is having to straddle positions in practically every category. And it's also why she's not giving press conferences. You know what? The last time she gave a solo press conference was December 2nd of 2023. It was 12 minutes long and she took 6 questions. This is who Kamala Harris is. And the mainstream media is gaslighting you over who she is. And it's really pathetic to see. Anyway, happy Saturday to all of you. Thank you all so much for tuning into this Small Business Saturday edition of Furthermore with Amanda Head. I think we're back on schedule with these Saturday episodes every single weekend. So I would be delighted if you would join me along on that journey. And then of course, the audio only podcast gets released, a new episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Furthermore with Amanda Head on all of the podcasting platforms. And you can find me on social media at Amanda Head and the podcast with its very own X page at Furthermore Pod. So hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah.